Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 5 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled, Frame on You. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins with the Action News team finding out Rusty got suspended for supposedly pulling a prank that ruined the middle school dance. Lincoln and his friends try to prove Rusty was falsely accused, but the eyewitnesses from the dance have credible evidence to say otherwise. However, the kids find their own evidence in the gym, which leads to them thinking someone who rented a suit from Rusty's dad's store was trying to frame Rusty. Unfortunately, their suspects all have an alibi. In a shocking twist, it was actually girl Jordan responsible for the prank, and she did it to get back at Rusty for costing them their home ec project. Everything and everyone are forgiven, no one is punished, and that's how the final episode of Season 5 comes to an end. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. I'm going to be totally honest when I say out of every episode they could have used to end the 5th season, they had to go with this one. Let me just say right off the bat, this episode had the potential to be a lot better than what it was, mostly if the ending was changed to something more respectable, but I'll get back to that in just a little bit. If anything, Camped should have been the final episode of Season 5. At least the season could have ended on a much higher note and with a way better ending. But getting back to this episode, let's first talk about some of the good things it had to offer. The story itself was another example of the timeless whodunit storyline. These are the kind of conflicts I like, especially when the time comes for the shocking reveal. Granted, they aren't the most amazing storylines, but I do have a genuine respect for them in terms of writing. The gradual build throughout the episode was very intriguing to say the least. Rusty knew he wasn't responsible for the prank, but the documented evidence and testimonies from the eyewitnesses at the dance built a very strong case to disprove Rusty's claim. Returning to the scene of the crime opened the door to new evidence, and that's what led them to duds for dudes. That was where the story took a very interesting turn. To the credit of the writers, I give them a point for the way they put names of potential suspects on the suit rental sheet. Although I did find it rather convenient it only had first names, not last names. That would have narrowed down the list of suspects very quickly, but I understand what they were going for. The kids saw 3 boy names and never once thought there could be a moment of ambiguity when they looked at the name Jordan. The Action News team may have been tripped up at first when all seemed impossible, but their hard work to clear Rusty's name really paid off by the end. Of course, when I say paid off, I mean they actually had to pay to try to get a testimony from Flip. But apparently, he now charges people for asking him any and all questions. Why does that not surprise me? But speaking of characters, besides my praise for the Action News team and Meryl for acting as an informant, presumably as a way of returning the favor following the events of Kernel of Truth, this episode marks the return of several one-off characters last seen years ago. Chad from Overnight Success and Paige from L is for Love. I was honestly not expecting any of these kids to ever have any sort of significance to an episode following their debuts. They have appeared in the background from time to time, but never with a speaking role. There's also the reintroduction of Boy Jordan, who looks absolutely nothing like he did in all previous appearances. It's funny how the storyboard artist can remember what all these other characters look like from episodes made years ago, but not him. That's so weird, but not as weird as seeing Bull Hoffner trying to wrestle a bobcat. Say what you will about his character, but this man isn't afraid to go one-on-one with wildlife, as we saw in Rumor Has It. Anyway, after clearing the names of the 3 potential suspects who could have dressed up as Rusty to make it look like he was the prankster, Stella concludes it was in fact someone on that rental sheet who committed the prank, but not a boy named Jordan, it was a girl named Jordan. So now we come to her. I believe this is the first time she's played a central role in an episode, so props to the writers for finally giving her something to do. Now by this point in the series, I never imagined girl Jordan going out of her way to make someone pay for receiving her first failing grade during her years at school. However, I can't say what she did was out of character, since her character was barely ever touched upon in the past. We find out she takes getting good grades very seriously, and she's quite calculating at planning revenge. She was familiar with the kind of suit Rusty wears to every dance, knew where to find a wig to match Rusty's hair, and even going so far as to study the way he talks. I mean, really, she was that hell-bent on making sure her project partner was going to pay for the injustice he brought upon her. I don't know about anyone else, but this episode made me appreciate Girl Jordan's character more than I did in the past. It makes her a little more well-rounded in personality, and a little more realistic. Never be too trusting of the nice ones, since you never know when they'll dress like you in order to make you look like the bad guy. So as the famous catchphrase goes, she would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. However, it seemed like she really did get away with it, and now we come to my biggest negative of the episode. Despite the revelation and knowing the trouble she caused, Girl Jordan got off scot-free. That's what drove the episode down. She was caught with the evidence used to frame Rusty, and then she admitted to the crime. She was willing to accept her punishment as an adult, and yet it seemed like both Rusty and Principal Ramirez let her off the hook way too easily. I know Rusty never comes off as an overly vindictive person who likes to see somebody suffer for their wrongdoings, and Girl Jordan has never proven to be a terrible classmate who would be very likely to commit pranks and get in trouble for them on a constant basis. That sounds more like Chandler McCann, but the fact someone like Chandler got what he deserved at the end of Broadcast Blues, as minor as it was, and Girl Jordan faced no consequences for what she did is very messed up and beyond ridiculous. What's even more ridiculous is the fact the principal only agreed to not suspend her if Rusty continued to be a substitute teacher. How does that make any sense? To be fair, we can only assume Rusty is in fact an effective teacher based on how the students reacted to being threatened with detention if they didn't get back to class, but maybe this reveals how bad Ramirez can be when it comes to finding good substitutes. Either way, this ending was just meh, and technically Rusty never served a suspension since he was roaming the school grounds. Then again, he was mistaken for a female substitute teacher, so I guess it really doesn't matter. One last thing I noticed. As far back as the 4th season, Rusty has had this strange running gag of not only dressing as a girl, but finding it to be very enjoyable. First as Mrs. Johnson, then as a fake girlfriend during a sting operation, and now a substitute teacher. I'm not judging or anything, I'm just saying it raises a lot of questions about the kind of guy he is, and quite possibly opens the door to many interesting ideas for fanfiction stories. I'll just leave it at that. Overall, when it comes to capping off the season in terms of production, this episode was a mix of okay and meh. While I enjoyed the mystery solving storyline, the majority of the cast, especially the expansion of Girl Jordan's character, and the way the plot was laid out, it was the ending that ultimately killed the story and left a very unpleasant taste in my mouth. Rusty was punished for something he didn't do, although technically he never stayed away from school grounds, and yet Girl Jordan didn't even get a simple slap on the wrist. The very least that could have happened was for her to serve out the rest of Rusty's suspension. If not suspension, then something else like her trying to make amends for what she did. Anything would have been more respectable than just, let's call it even because she apologized. No true justice came from that ending, and if there's one thing I don't like about certain episodes in the series, it would be either rewarding the villain or allowing them to get away without punishment. Girl Jordan was the villain, openly admitted to it, willing to accept her punishment, and it never happened. This ending could have been way better, but what's done is done. With that said, I give Frame on You a 7 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Frame on You. This easily could have been an 8 out of 10, and the opportunity to make it happen was right there, and it wasn't taken. Like I said, if given the choice, I would have saved Camp for the official season finale. I don't know if anyone else agrees or disagrees with that, but I welcome the challenge of someone to prove why this episode was deserving of being the 5th season finale. To which I say, good luck with that. So what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.